Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing? I think I only have myself viewing right now, but welcome to the first episode of a conceptual podcast slash talk show idea that I had called the Trans Tech Perspective. I'm currently using just one of the built-in themes to Stream Elements right now. I'm trying to get a feel for what I want to do or what I want to make this look like. So far, I just have a green screen in the background. I could probably just remove this in the future and have an actual set in the background. But today I mostly just wanted to try this out. I've been inspired by a few people online, such as Linus Tech Tips with their WAN show, and just Barnacles Nerdgasm with all of his lovely I can't speak today live streams. Um, I've been wanting to do like a talk show with me and other people as well that I know because I always like to talk about certain things in tech, and also I like to talk about things involving my gender identity, so that's why it's called the Trans Tech Perspective. Now, this talk show will talk about a wide variety of things, such as technology, obviously. We'll be hitting on politics from time to time, and we'll also be hitting on any news stories that are pretty major, such as the one we're going to be talking about today, which is the possible war in Ukraine due to the lovely things Russia's doing right now. So, without further ado, let's get into this. Now, today, sadly, I do not have a co host on like I initially planned. I initially planned on having my current roommate, Ryan Tucker, to be with me. I was going to be doing this yesterday around 5 p.m., and then things just fell apart. My internet was having issues, and on top of that, I was just also having nonstop issues trying to get everything set up. So the good news is, though, is that I did allow myself a little bit of an extension, and I did have free time today before I got into work. So that's why I was able to do it today. Now, normally I would announce the time I'm doing this way in advance instead of like less than 24 hours before. So to anybody who's watching this later and down the road or listening to this in audio only, make sure to know that you can check out my Twitch to know the proper schedule. I should have it out about at least a week in advance. That's usually when I get my work schedule. So that's when I can have a realistic expectation of when I can be on and when you guys can listen on in. So, without a further ado, let's get into the very first topic of today. I wanted to quickly discuss my point of view on the current Lenovo situation with the Ryzen CPUs they have and their consumer Think Center products. I believe that's the correct SKU. They currently, what they're doing is, I can't speak today. So, what's happening is that Lenovo is selling computers with consumer chips with an enterprise feature that makes no sense from a consumer standpoint. So what's happening is there's a feature AMD has on their enterprise SKU of CPUs that allows a CPU to be tied to a motherboard, and allows it to be unusable outside of that motherboard environment. And if I'm not mistaken, it makes it unusable, period, if you try using it outside of that motherboard environment due to the blown fuse on the CPU itself. So pretty much what's going to cause problems is later on down the road in the used market when somebody decides to build their own computer and get used components online from Amazon or eBay and so on, you might accidentally get these kind of chips. And the main problem that I have is there is no labeling on these chips to identify them as a possible hazard for you to buy. They are just labeled as normal chips on the motherboard. There's no indication from Lenovo. You have to actually like do research into this to finally figure out that, hey, this CPU is garbage outside of this one machine. Now, given the nature of how the whole Lenovo motherboard situation is set up, you could put any other consumer Ryzen AM4 like CPU inside of there and it'll work just fine. But the CPU that comes with the product can only be used in that product. So there's no easy way for you to sell that CPU down the road to update your machine, and it's going to cause issues for a lot of consumers. And I always see practices like this a little bit more anti-consumer, even though the Lenovo products that are mentioned are usually found in more enterprise situations or school situations. It is still kind of problematic because these devices, no matter what's going to happen in the future that Lenovo kind of thinks is going to happen, these things either end up in electronic recycling and then sold to underserved people, or they're sold online and people want to be able to get a gaming computer for cheap, so they buy these APUs. And when you ruin that ability for people to use things secondhand outside of one particular use case, you're pretty much locking down a piece of hardware that doesn't need to be locked down and causing unnecessary e-waste. Because in the future, I could tell you what, those AMD processors 10 years from now, they're going to need to have some sort of GPU with them, and you can't in those small form factor Lenovo computers. I'm going to actually really quickly find the news article that I had yesterday. I initially wrote out a document for today, but that did not turn out according to plan. Um, I was initially trying to make it more like the WAN show where they have a WAN document explaining, oh, here's what we're going to talk about today. And I ended up messing that entirely up. So I'm going to make sure that I get everything situated next show. This is just the first show's kind of like growing pains, and I'll take care of it from there. So today's article, I'm going to go ahead and reference just to make sure it's going to be. I got to make sure I first choose the right desktop. So give me one moment. Boo. I forget how to use OBS. It's been so long. Um, I believe I have talk show webcam. I just got to add my display capture. So give me a moment. Boo. We're going to go choose my right monitor that has serve the home. Okay, today's article is going to be from Serve the Home. This is one of my favorite like news articles, like websites to go through a lot for technology stuff. But yeah, Lenovo vendor locking Ryzen CPUs with AMD PSB. Um, Looks like they have a video attached with it explaining it. But for now, we'll just go through the very basic stuff. So usually you'd find them on server CPUs, the kind of like locking they're doing for this consumer stuff. So mostly their Threadripper Pros or their Epic line of CPUs. And we're finding this on a consumer level chip. So AMD shipped chips with fuses not blown. Vendor sets PSB to ensure no post-factory tampering from the factory to the customer. Have the ability to DPSB CPU, perhaps by blowing all field programmable fuses. CPU has gone through the DPSB process, cannot be used again with the PSB feature, but can be used in any system with PSB disabled. All systems should allow PSB enabled or disabled with an indication on which is being used. So this is the ThinkCenter computers in question, and the main problem I have, again, with this being locked down, is this is an extremely small form factor build. I do not believe this has Thunderbolt on it. So you're really screwed if you ever want to have any upgrade options down the line with that CPU. If you wanted to be able to put in, like, for instance, a 1060 with that, or even down the line, just any cheap off-the-shelf, like, graphics card, you can't do it. You have to deal with the onboard AMD graphics for however those hold up for. Um, it is really not good for secondhand market stuff, such as their final words you can see on the screen. It's just messed up to a lot of consumers where it's like, okay, so we have all these CPUs that are no longer usable. And I understand why people want to be able to do this like in the enterprise space, but what's also going to suck later on down the road is the secondhand market for those enterprise chips is going to be terrible. It's going to be locked CPUs to certain motherboards. So you're not going to be able to put any sort of standard size motherboard into a case. You're going to have to buy a bundle online, which is going to add costs. And more than likely, you're not going to find a bundle with that CPU and motherboard. You're going to find situations where you're just going to have a CPU that is pretty much null and void and is just empty wafers of silicon that are no longer usable to the end consumer. And I'm really upset because I am a secondhand person. I love working with old technology. I love working with just freshly end of life stuff because it's a really good deal and you get really good stuff out of that hardware. And then just locking it out to the point where consumers can't touch stuff and mess with stuff or even use stuff, it's like, why? I understand for enterprise stuff for security, but could this be done a different way? Could this be done through software instead of through hardware? There's a lot of questions I have for the people involved with this, and I really do hope Lenovo and AMD both come to a conclusion that something needs to change involving this, or at least allow like a BIOS update to fix things, or even better, mark off the CPU as a SKU that is different than the consumer chips that you can still buy right now to make it easier for the end consumer to decipher. Is this going to be a dead chip when I try putting into my consumer motherboard, or is this going to be an actual like working AMD CPU? I do not have anybody currently watching, so I do not have an ability to ask for comments on this. But if later on down the show, if I get anybody joining on in and they have any comments to add to this, I will make sure to read them out loud and go back and forth. I do prefer to have two people on here just to have a back and forth, but I'm going to do my best going by myself today. I have a really, I think I mentioned this before, I have a really good roommate named Ryan who is really good at talking back and forth with a non-techie perspective. He's not as into computers as me, so he's more of like the general consumer type of person who's like, here's my opinion on this without having all this extensive, tech history, or especially when it comes to stuff like, for instance, the war in Ukraine. He has a lot more to add to the table than I normally would, so it's kind of a good thing to be able to have like a back and forth. I'm hoping also I can invite some friends or some guests on here as well later on down the road. You never know. It just depends on what people decide to allow me to do. Also, I'm not sure if anybody's watching this after the fact, but how does this setup look? Is it too much? I try to add like pride flags below me or something like that on the table, like the virtual table. This is most of the stuff that Stream Elements has available to me. So this was like already on the desk. I added my logo to this cup over here. I kind of can't. There we go. There's that cup over there with my logo on it. And then I also have chat over here. I forget that my camera's mirrored. It's a very weird feeling trying to do this. I might switch that up down the road. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out so far. I was expecting it to actually be a little bit worse than what it is. So my green screen's working, and so far it seems like my audio and the stream has not crashed. So we're going good so far. So next we're going to hit up on the topic of the possible war in Ukraine. So currently, if you haven't been online or paying attention to any news right now, there has been a ton of news coming out of Russia starting to surround the borders of Ukraine on their side. And they're playing a game of cat and mouse where they are trying to claim that the United States is increasing tensions or trying to make falsified statements about Russia doing this when there is satellite imagery and all these other things that already happened. I think there's like a false coup that already happened. I have to double check that through my sources. But currently what's happening is almost the start of a war that might lead to another world war. So I'm not sure if anybody saw that World War III was trending for the third year pretty much in a row. Last year we dealt with the North Korean missile crisis, which we're currently actually starting to deal with again. And now we're dealing with North Korean missile crisis and Russia. So it's going to be a fun situation where we might actually live through another world war. And I am personally not too excited about that. This is my McDonald's drink, not sponsored. Um, so we're right now seeing a bunch of anti-tank stuff being set out by Russia, and also a lot of military going to the region. And a lot of people in NATO and the United States and Britain are really concerned. They very recently just evacuated a bunch of families from the embassy that are not that are not um, necessary workers, I believe it is, or like I forget the exact term I'm looking for, essential to running the embassy itself. But they are currently ordering like a pretty high risk, saying if you are a U.S. or U.K. or any European citizen in Ukraine, move now before things get bad. And I do want to reiterate that if you are in Ukraine and you are not a Ukraine citizen, please go to where it can be safe until the tensions are down, or if war does happen, we want to make sure that you are safe and you're not caught in the crossfires, because we are not sure what Russia's planning. We're hoping that it's not a nuclear war situation, but it might lead to things that could cause a lot of loss of life if people are not moved right away. I am really concerned because over the past like 5 years, tensions have been getting really high with Russia, North Korea, and even China for that matter. And I've been worried there's going to be another war where there's going to be a lot of people going against a lot of lot of the countries that I care about. So I'm really concerned that we're going to end up with a nuclear war in our future, and it's going to be way sooner than what we initially thought. If I'm not mistaken, let's see. So currently, the doomsday clock is 100 seconds to midnight. And this is for a lot of reasons. Alongside the increased political tensions, this is also due. Oop, we got a newsletter. We don't want that. This is also mainly due just to pretty much global warming, ties to tension when it comes to like food shortages, just tensions overall. But now we're dealing with possible war. It kind of makes sense why it's 100 seconds to midnight, and we got to be really, really concerned right now because I know some people don't like to agree with this because they're like, "Oh, global warming doesn't exist." It does exist. I know some people are very anti, whatever they're told is fact, but sometimes you got to be really concurrent with how you look at things and be like, "There's an actual reason why this is the way it is." Um, so right now, a lot of people, including the bulletin of the atomic scientists, I can't pronounce things right. It's kind of cut off at the top. Um, they're concerned. I'm concerned. America's concerned. The UK is concerned, and the European Union is currently concerned. So we are all preparing right now for war. If I'm not mistaken, let me double check. So I saw this from the Pentagon. They were pretty much saying that they have 8,500 troops. I'm guessing a little bit more that are like they're ready to deploy to Europe amid tensions. And I believe that they are just like ready like the second something happens. So if Russia tries to pull anything, we're going to be going into a war, a la like what we did in Afghanistan. Outside of us going into a war that we don't need to be into, well, this is actually a war that we need to be into because, unlike Afghanistan, the United States didn't insert themselves into a situation that they shouldn't have. That war went on for way too long, and I have a feeling we're going to go into a war with Russia, and a lot of things are going to go down. I know for a fact the European Union also, in their release, said they're going to put sanctions that the world has never seen before if Russia does anything. And I think Russia doesn't care at this point, and I think we're going to see a situation where, similar to how Germany was ostracized after the World Wars, we're going to see a similar situation with Russia if they step foot in Ukrainian soil. They tried supposedly. I'm not. I have to find the news article for this, but supposedly they tried to find or tried to do like some sort of coup to put a pro-Russia leader in place, and I believe it failed. And I think they're going to try doing something else fairly soon. So make sure you keep an eye on Twitter, keep an eye on your local news station, and keep an eye on CNN, Fox, whatever you go through to see what's going on. Make sure that if you do go through Fox or CNN, just know those two are very politically biased. In my opinion, they're like the left and the right political channels. Make sure you look into things like the Associated Press as well, things that are more in the center and less biased, because you do have issues sometimes with certain news reporting. Definitely in America, you have what they have news stations that are very politically biased in what they show and why they show it. So with this going on, given already the political tensions in the United States and the political tensions currently in Europe, take some things with a grain of salt, but take some things very seriously. Um, Outside of that, I personally am glad that I will not be able to be drafted for the next World War, so I am still considered a male to the United States. I am currently, if you don't know, transgender female. My pronouns are she, her. Bigots, you guys can go F yourselves. I am living my best life. But outside of that, I have a history of mental health stuff, so they won't be able to bring me in. They'll say, there's a history to a point where I'll be a quote unquote a danger to myself. So it's going to allow me to at least stay on the home side of things. I would never want to be fighting in a war. Um, I don't like wars to begin with unless they're entirely necessary, but still, there's a lot of stuff where it's like a lot of unnecessary death happens, and I don't want to die for something that I don't want to be a part of. Now, not to say that I can change things with words. I prefer to change things with words over changing things with a gun. Um, but I want to make sure that people know that, if this war does happen, I do support it in the way of politics, but I do not support it in the way of putting people on the line that don't want to be on the line. Ooh, I just dropped a bunch of fries. If you guys can't tell, I got McDonald's after the three McDonald's related things in front of me. Um, I have not eaten any food properly today, so I do apologize if I eat a little bit on today's show. So, since I am running low on the initial planned topics, and since this is going a little bit more quick since I do not have my lovely co host that I was planning on having, I would like to quickly see what's going on in news. If I'm not mistaken, there's actually some pretty sad news that I found out about this morning. The voice actor for A Charlie Brown Christmas' Charlie Brown did die. I believe it was last week. He died at 65 years old. Share my screen really quick. So, according to reports, it was due mostly to mental health stuff. Um, he did take his own life. And I do want to let you guys know that I personally have struggled with mental health in the past. And I know that people, especially if they've been put into the limelight for any point in time in their lives, it is going to be difficult. And I just know for a fact that this person probably was struggling a lot, and a lot of people were either ignoring it or trying to help the best they could. But sometimes it's difficult for people in the limelight, and I was extremely shocked to see this. But I've also heard in the past of his struggles through different news reports, and I'm just glad that he's no longer in pain, and I am thankful for all he gave to the world. Um, I grew up a lot with the Charlie Brown cartoons. I forget which ones he exactly did outside of Charlie Brown Christmas, um, but Schwartz did an amazing job with his creations of the Charlie Brown characters, and to lose one of the people that got a chance to put a voice to the comic strip is very saddening. This year we've lost a lot of people, from Bob Saget. We lost Betty White. We lost a few more that I do not know off the top of my head because I am a very, very uninformed human being when it comes to a lot of celebrity deaths outside of the two major ones that I know of. Um, Also, we had some news 13 minutes ago. This is actually kind of interesting. The U.S. Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer to retire. What was his political affiliation, actually? I'm not sure off the top of my head. He might have been. Yeah, he was one of the liberal side.
Was
Let's see. So currently we have kind of a liberal slash conservative situation in the Supreme Court. If you're not familiarized with the United States, um, currently we have six conservative justices and three more liberal-esque justices. Now, they don't really officially identify with parties to keep things more centered, but given more recent things with the Trump presidency and Amy Coney Bryant, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. There's been situations where we're going to be seeing. We saw pretty much Trump trying to pack the court right away before he left office, causing a very, very uneven split. So, do apologize. I'll try to talk, not talk while I'm trying to eat. Um, so it looks like Biden will get a chance to add a more left-leaning justice. Um, there's going to be a lot of hit stories trying to get you to click on them, but it seems like it has been time for me. My opinion with the Supreme Court, they should have term limits. It shouldn't be for life, because the problem is you're going to have a situation where, like very recently, you have a bunch of people die. You're going to put a bunch of only one side politically into the court. Doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democratic. It's going to be one ideology is going to try to pack the court as much as possible to get one thing through. We need to have an even count on both sides' ideology, or ideologically. I'm not sure how to say that right. Because what's going to happen is you're either going to have the left or the right pushing through the agenda nonstop. Now, I am more of a extreme leftist, and I would prefer to have a lot more liberal-esque justices on the Supreme Court, but some Republican folk don't really like that because they're afraid that more progressive policies are going to be threatening to their way of life, which is bigotry and homophobia and shit like that. So I try to say to keep it even, but also I'm like, please just make it even. Like, if you need to pack the court to make it even, please do that. Um, and yeah, but that 27 years though, that's about like how long has Nancy Pelosi? 1 second. So I believe Nancy Pelosi. I forget the how long in Congress. So Nancy Pelosi has been in Congress for longer than this person has been a judge. Um, Jeez, 1987. This is one thing too. I also want to quickly discuss. Oh, hi. Is it Swerkern? Hi, how's it going? I'm currently doing my little talk show. Woo! I'm briefly touching on politics. I just found this trending on Twitter. So it looks like we have a lot of older justices. One of them is actually retiring. Um, and I'm right now looking at this, and I have really one less opinionated thing to say about this topic before I go to the RTX 3050 announcement. So for me, I think there should be a term limit for a lot of things because we have a lot of old people currently representing us, and we have a lot of people in the younger generation who have different ideals than what the progressives or the conservatives of said past generation have. Like we have people like Mitch McConnell or Nancy Pelosi, different speakers of the House who have been, or different people in the House and in the Senate that are just really old, like in their 70s, 80s. Like our current president is in his 80s, and I really want to be able to see more younger people come up to the political side of things in the United States. Um, I'm really excited though to see what happens. Supposedly we're going to have the first black woman in the court, which I'm pretty excited about. Finally, getting rid of just the white standard that we've had for a lot of things. I'm not sure exactly what else to say about this because I just got this news like as it happened. So for now, I think I'm going to switch right back over to the RTX 3050 being announced. So here's my main talk show stage, by the way, Swerkern. I'm not sure to pronounce your name right. I'm sorry. I feel bad. So this is my new podcast. I'm not sure if you're too familiar with how I try to do things here. So I'm trying to mimic Linus Tech Tips' WAN show slash other talk series that I've seen on Twitch, like from Barnacules Nerdgasm, involving both slightly political but also slightly more tech aligned when it comes to my conversations, alongside different world events and so on. So I am super excited to be able to do this. This is my first time doing a talk show. I've been doing this now for about 26 minutes. I've had about like a 20-minute timer, so I'm trying to do this for about at least an hour for the show for today. And in the future, I plan on having a guest star or a friend of mine to come on the show, to be able to help the conversation not be so one-sided and having me just rambling nonstop. But yeah, I did my best with the setup. Hopefully it looks good. Hopefully my green screening is halfway decent. I tried my best. It's a lot. But I'm so glad to see you around, though. Seriously, it's so nice to see people actually watching as well. Because I did record this just in case, because I want to be able to like publish this on YouTube. And I want to be able to publish this as an audio only option as well. My internet is too slow to watch in 1080p, but good to see you still streaming. Oh no, do you have the quality change available? If not, I do apologize. Um, yeah, I right now what I'm trying to do is trying to figure out how I can get quality change. I believe you might need to be a partner or something like that to have like a higher chance. I might need to bring this down to a 720p stream if it gets to a point where enough people cannot watch. But I will do my best to accommodate as much as possible to people who do want to watch this in the future. Um, right now, I want to get over to the topic of the release of NVIDIA releasing the I was just about to go for that. What do you think about the announcement of the 3050? I was just about to pull up my article. I think it is deserved and also not deserved at the same time how NVIDIA did this. So, if you guys are not familiar with the current GPU shortage, or you're not too, if you haven't been online for the past 2 years, cryptocurrency miners have been taking over the market. And right now, I have a strong feeling the RTX 3050 is going to be eaten up by miners. Even though supposedly it's not going to be as good to use as a mining GPU, you're going to have a high chance of having a lot of scalpers either buy it up or even try to find a way to mine and be profitable on it. Now, currently, the RTX 3050 is going to be retail for 250, which is going to be impossible. Um, yeah, the availability of quality change is very weird. So it depends on if you are an affiliate slash I don't know the other term for the Twitch partner slash affiliate. I know if you're one of those, you get a higher chance. I think if you get partner, you always get quality change. But that's one of the weird things where it's just the luck of the draw when you're a random streamer. I did not check before I went live to see if I got quality change, and I haven't streamed enough for me to even have the ability to have subscriptions yet, so I don't think I'm priority on any of Twitch's queue right now. My goal is to be able to do game streams, obviously, and this talk show at least like once a week, because I like to talk about tech stuff, and I like to talk about random things like, the possible war in Ukraine, stuff like that. I might, if... Oops, excuse me, I dropped my phone. I might actually pick up the 3050 for my home theater PC if it is even available. My big problem right now is on January 27, you are going to see everyone with a bot buy out the stock immediately. You are not going to see it for the price of $249 USD. Now, the one card I was looking at, I forget what that AMD card is. Was it the was one that had the 64-bit bus. One second, I got to figure out what was that new card off of the top of my head. Um, but there was this one recently released AMD card that had like a 64-bit bus, which is terrible for modern cards. But let's go. Actually, I'll probably see Gamers Nexus get a video on this. Let's go ahead and go to that really quick. Oh, they already have their 3050 review. I did not realize they actually released that today. Oh, it was the 6500 XT. So this card, I have a very, very, very unpopular opinion about this card. This is the best thing that AMD could have done in this current situation. Because this needs to be as most unappealing to miners as possible for the card to not be eaten up to a point where you cannot buy it. This is the only card I've been able to see in store, or at least in stock in some places online. And it's because of the fact that it's so limited to the ability of it interacting with the RAM on the chip that it makes it really difficult for miners to use. And the one problem I'm going to foresee with the 3050, even though it's a pretty good all-around card, is going to be scalped up. They're going to have a problem where it's going to be very similar to the any 30 series launch, even 20 series right now. Whenever you see any of those go back up in the market, it's just going to be bought out immediately by people who are either mining or scalping, and then the price is going to go up to extraordinarily high prices on eBay. Like, I'm going to quickly pull up my eBay order history. So I purchased my 2080 Super I currently use on eBay, I believe right before the crypto thing caused the prices to go astronomical. Um, Let me go ahead and find my purchase history for you guys. Give me one moment as I sign in. But I purchased my card for what I can say a reasonable price was for the time. I believe it was in 2020. So it was like right at the point in time where prices were climbing, and I'm like, I need to buy a card now. Otherwise, I will be screwed. And I am a big techie, and I recently went from a 1070 to a 2080 Super. The 1070, by the way, amazing card. But the 2080 Super has what I need when it comes to streaming and video editing, which is what I do for my current college stuff. Let me go ahead and see if I can find my orders in the past. I'm not sure where I can find that on eBay because they really do like to mess with things. See orders from 2020. There we go. Boop-a-doo. So yeah, I got my. I want you guys to quickly guess what price I paid for my 2080 Super. I'm gonna quickly zoom in so you guys cannot get my product information. I'm gonna go ahead and find a way to quickly block off my order number as well so you guys can't see that information. So I paid a whopping total of $649 for my 2080 Super. Do you know how much money a current 2080 Super is going for right now? If I go to sold listings for 2080 Super, the I got to go ahead and see sold listings. They changed how eBay is, by the way. It really bothers me sometimes. Let's see. Where's the? Is it show only? I believe. Let's see all. There it is. Sold items. So if we look at all sold items for the 2080 as of currently, it's currently back down to 750, but at one point it was at 845. I remember seeing those, and I remember it was going for over 1,000 at one point last year. So currently you're able to find parts only cards for that much right now. But if we go back a little bit in time, they were selling for like $1,000. And like I was looking at my card at the time, like, do I really want to hold on to this card? I paid 600 for it because I saw successful sales. Like I have this exact card, I believe, in another machine. I was able to get this one for like 500 for a friend. This is my current card right here, the MSI one. That was 735. That was bids, but you're able to get like 800 to 1,000. That's a blower type card. These things were selling because these are really good for mining. And what's going to happen is with those 3050s, I'm guessing there's already pre-orders available on eBay. You're going to see the scalpers who already know they're going to get them. If you look up 3050, well, currently, actually, there's no pre-orders. They must have put them down, but eh, they're actually not that bad for laptops. But I'm expecting those card prices to be pretty extreme. Now, the one place that I always like to say is Memory Express. Always has the, I believe it is again the 6500 XT. This is the place I usually buy my stuff. It looks sketchy. It's actually not sketchy. This is the one place where I usually like to buy all my cards. Um, So currently these are out of stock online, but if you go in store, you can still find these. So there's a store that's near Detroit in Michigan. I'm on the other side of the state, but I was able to go down there last week and I was able to see these two cards like abundantly in stock because miners are so afraid to find these things because they are not functional as mining GPUs. So the 3050 decently over all around specs. If the cryptocurrency stuff continues to crash like it did a few days ago, we might actually see it available at a reasonable price. Hopefully, not too much above the suggested retail. Because again, $250 is reasonable, but once you reach 400 to 500, it's really not that much of a good value. At this point in time in the market, if you are looking for a GPU, this is your best bet outside of an AMD APU, which has the Vega built-in graphics. The Vega graphics are good enough to get by until you can get a card, but outside of that, that is my recommendation. Um, I am a big techie, so like my computer is really spec'd out in a certain way, and I really don't plan on upgrading anytime soon. But this kind of hardware that I was able to get for the price was pretty good. So I have myself a Ryzen 9 3900X. Currently, I have 32 gigs in the system. I do have another 32 gigs of RAM, but I'm currently using that in a test project that I'm doing a video for. Way too many hard drives, and my 2080 Super, which has been nothing short of amazing since I got it. So if you guys are looking for a good card, whenever these prices start going down, like I would say 600 to 500 for this card is a really good price. Definitely look at the 2080 Super these upcoming months, because resellers are definitely going to start hurting when they realize that miners aren't buying their cards anymore. After a certain point, crypto is not going to be profitable with certain cards. And I have a feeling that after a certain point, after they're done increasing the RAM requirements, we're going to see a lot of cards like the 3050 and 3060 finally get into the hands of people who deserve them. I do know a few YouTubers like Linus Tech Tips and Gamers Nexus. I believe Linus Tech was doing the Certified Gamer program where they had like a quick quiz before you're able to purchase the card. I know there's a few chances you might be able to get cards at close to, or if not MSRP there, but it has not happened as of recent. And it was very rare when it did happen, so I'm hoping there's more opportunities in the future involving that. But outside of that, that's my opinion currently on the current GPU market. I do apologize for going around in circles, but I really do appreciate you all chatting with me, though. I'm not sure if you guys are still around or not. I cannot tell, but I appreciate you guys chatting around and getting me on to my next topic and allow me to go back and forth as well, because that really does help me flesh out time for a little bit. Um, so outside of this, I'm going to quickly double check to see what was on my list of things I wanted to talk about. So we did already discuss the Lenovo locking Ryzen CPUs and motherboards, the possible war in Ukraine, the 3050. We're currently going to see what else is currently on Twitter, because that's where I usually go for a lot of basic topics that are trending. Let's double check to make sure. Oh, this is actually a very interesting topic involving the tech space. So currently, Neil Young, which is more famous for rocking in the free world, and I forget the other song that I know he's really known for. Let's actually double check. Neil Young songs. Let's do a Google search because I am definitely a boomer when it comes to certain things. He's an older star. I think it's For What It's Worth. Once you hear the song, you'll know it. But he has a pretty decent song library. But he is currently in talks with Spotify because he is really upset about currently the Joe Rogan show. So I'm not sure if you guys know about Joe Rogan. If you're in if you watch certain YouTubers online, you understand a lot of people's sentiment on why they do not like Joe Rogan. I'm more on the liberalesque ideology scale kind of ordeal, so more on the left leaning. So I really don't like him. But this is taking it to another step where Neil Young's like, no, I don't want me myself on the same platform as somebody doing COVID misinformation. So currently on his podcast, he's having a lot of conspiracy theories go rampant. It kind of reminds me a little bit of how InfoWars went from slightly problematic to extremely problematic, and it's starting to become slightly too extremely problematic currently when it comes to the information being spread on Joe Rogan's podcast. And Spotify spent a lot of money to get Joe Rogan on their platform, and now they're kind of regretting it a little bit because a lot of people are pushing away from their platform because a lot of people like myself do not want to support these extreme right wing conspiracies because it really does hurt people like me who I'm immunocompromised. I know a few friends are, and I was exposed to COVID. Luckily, I did not get COVID, but I was so worried because like I already have issues breathing at night as well, and I probably would have been in the hospital on the ventilator. Um, and I really don't like the fact that the anti-mask rhetoric is being spread around a lot because it really does hurt people. I had two friends of mine who are immunocompromised in their 20s die from COVID these past 2 years. Um, it's been kind of difficult on me because I'm just like initially I was like, oh, I don't want to wear masks, but I finally had that affect my life, and I'm like, I don't want to die or expose someone I love and care about who can die from COVID as well. So that I kind of understand Neil Young's sentiment when it comes to why um, he does not want his music on the same platform. So this is currently one of the bigger things in tech right now that's happening outside of the 3050 launch, which is going to be, I believe, tomorrow. And I hope I can get my hands on one of them with my current paycheck. If I can't, well, I will do my best to do a video later on down the road when I can get one at a reasonable price. Um, let's go see if there's anything else off the top of my head. Woo! Pokemon Legends, did that actually launch? Oh, there's already reviews out of it. This game I'm super excited for. So I have a Switch. I love Pokemon. I love the way this looks, and I am just so geeked out. I might actually buy this game and stream it. Um, so I'm super excited. I cannot wait for the release. I might just pre-order it on Amazon like right now. I think that's my plan. Um, some of these fan things are. You gotta be careful when you scroll down on Twitter. There's always some things that are just like, why? Um, see anything else that is currently newsworthy that I can talk about? Oh, it's the second anniversary of Kobe Bryant's death. That's probably one of the big things to talk about, which is his death kind of affected the world in a big way. So I wasn't personally like a big NBA watcher, but I had a few friends who were really affected by his death, and it's been 2 years. It feels like it was literally last month. This pandemic has messed up like our point of view of time right now. I don't think anything else is really trending or being able to talk about. Yep, the original Charlie Brown voice actor we talked about earlier in the stream. Let's see. Yeah, I do not believe that there's anything else that we have not talked about. So I believe that's going to be it for today. I am going to try to make these streams and this talk show kind of thing a little bit longer. And I'll do my best to stop stumbling as well. I need to write out a document with like pre-done topics so I'm not rambling, going back and forth, and talking like I'm a maniac with technology. But I appreciate every single one of you who decided to stop by. You guys have been absolutely amazing. If you have any sort of critiques of what I've done so far, anything that I can do to improve myself, anything I can do to improve the show, please let me know. I really do like streaming and talking on Twitch. I really do want to find more people to talk with. That will allow me to actually have more discussion and the ability to go more back and forth. I appreciate every single one of you. Lev Recu 2 and Swirkern. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name again. I know you from before. I just don't know how to pronounce your name. I promise I'm not a terrible human being. But I try my best here. Being a Twitch streamer is always fun, but sometimes some people's names can always get you in a little hoot where you're like, how do I pronounce that? But I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you all for stopping by. Everyone who's listening to this either through audio only or through YouTube, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate every single one of you. And if you guys have any sort of criticism, like I said, for me whatsoever, please let me know. If there's any sort of topics you want to hear next week, feel free to at me on Twitter. The Twitter is above me right over here. I'm either at dirk.tv or at dirkportinga. I am very active on Twitter, so I will definitely get your tweets or DMs if you are following me and I follow you back. I think we should be able to DM back and forth. So yeah, and I believe that is all for today. So thank you all so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I love your face, and make sure you take care of yourself this week. Bye. Woo! Let's actually put back on Amazon Music. Woo! Let's see if I can do this. Woo!